Alright, yo, what is going on, guys? Hutcho322 here, and today, guys, we have the ASL Season 5 draft. And today, with me, we have our commentators. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Sup, I'm Excellent Name, aka Ian.
Hola, me llamo Malone. I feel like that's like my new intro for you know what? Yeah, I'm Malone.
Alright, so those are our two fantastic commentators, the same commentators from ASL Season 4 off-season. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and do the Season 5 draft. There will be rosters of 12, 14 coaches, same as usual. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and at our first pick. And why don't you guys go ahead and discuss what you think the first pick will be?
Well, Mega King just was now recently added, so I could definitely see that coming through.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This season has a lot of changes, so it's kind of hard to tell what the first pick is going to be. Who
There's
has the
definitely
first
a lot
pick?
of top picks. Brad Anderson does.
Oh,
He's
wow.
currently the #1 overall coach with most wins, I believe.
I think that is correct, yeah.
First pick is Tapu Koko. This is definitely a phenomenal Pokemon. I actually drafted this last season. It's got great speed and great versatility, especially now that it gets defog and some good physical electric stab, so it's definitely going to be a much bigger threat.
Yeah, I agree. Tapu Koko is always in those first 5 picks for the drafts, usually. And it's just a great mon. It has insane speed with great attack stats and great move pools. And it's probably one of the best mons in the format. Okay, and coming in for the second pick, we have Jirachi for the Phoenix Flygons and Keister. And Jirachi is also one of the, usually in the first round, it's one of the mons with all of the base 100 stats. So you can really run it however you want. It also has rocks, it's a good cleric. You can run it offensive. It's a pivot. It's really just anything you want it to do.
Yeah, super strong in pretty much every single regard. It fills out every single role you could possibly want from Pokemon extremely effectively. So it's just that versatility makes it really strong pick. And although it has like fallen off a little bit, it's still a fantastic option.
Yeah, and the swing base ability.
Yeah, looks like the next pick's taking a little while.
Yeah, just had some difficulties.
Next up is Celesteela. This is definitely an expected pick. Super bulky Pokemon, but it's also really good offensively too. It's a great C user with Atomized and then just an attack to get off its beast boost and sweep teams. But usually you're going to see it run defensively. It's a fantastic steal for that reason. Leech Seed recovery is really strong on it because it's so hard to chip down. So yeah, phenomenal option all around. Definitely a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I was almost considering drafting it, but Celesteela and Jirachi, both very similar, and usually the best 2 steals. But yeah, Celesteela also can just be ran in any way, and with that beast boosted ability, it's one of the most threatening mons with an Atomize up, for sure. And coming up for the 4th pick, by myself, Malone, I'm going to head and grab Kieran Black. Kieran Black is always one of those mons that like I think is gonna go first but doesn't, and it's like didn't like one of the drafts would make it to 2nd round, like late 2nd round. It was crazy.
I doubt that.
I'm pretty sure it did, but Kieran Black is one of the best, if not the best, offensive mon in the format. It has an insane attack stat at 170, a great special attack stat at 120. It has just really good stats all across the board. And its move pool is insane just to support it as well.
Yep, and coming up next is Mew, another really versatile Pokemon. Most of the Pixie Pokemon are, but Mew is definitely the most out of them all. You can run every single tier. It's like fantastic bulky with base 100 stats across the board, fantastic at setting up rocks. It doesn't get Wish, unfortunately, but other than that, it's really strong defensively. And then offensively, because Union Z is allowed, it's definitely got some very viable options there with Union Z Psychic, Dual Dance, for example, or it can run a tech physical set.
Yeah, Mew is very good pick, but now we have Mega Venusaur for the Utah Hoots. The first Mega is gone, and it is a very good one. Mega Venusaur is another mon. It has, I don't know why I said that, but it is one of the best ones that you can use synergistically. It has a lot of other things that you can lead to really good core, and I've seen Susie use Mega Venusaur a lot. It obviously does get recovery and synthesis, leech seed, and those things, and it also can hit pretty hard.
Yeah. Speaking of hitting hard, next up is Latios, one of the primary dragon types in the format. It's not quite as strong as Pure and Black, but it's a lot faster and a lot more versatile, I feel, because it has that defog ability, which just leads to a lot better support options. It also gets set up with Calm Mind or Dragon Dance, so it can be run physically especially quite well. Runs Scarf, and it's one of the better Z mon users in my opinion. Definitely a very solid pick, especially with offering some immunities to ground and levitate and whatnot.
Yeah, and now we're going to have the Hartford Whalmers and the Chrissy Panda take up Zygarde 50%. You will see red dice on the screen, but that is his franchise pick, I believe, so we'll get to that later. But Zygarde 50% is another great Dragonmon in the format, obviously being one of the most dangerous Dragon Dance sweepers. But it just hits incredibly hard if you like put a choice band on it. It gets priority with E-Speed, and it can also be run defensively with its defense being its highest stat at 121.
Yeah. Next up is Mega Latios. It's also a very good pick. It doesn't get the same versatility as Latios because it's forced into running the Mega Stone, unfortunately, but it is a lot stronger to compensate for that. It's a much better Dragon Dancer, so it can be run physical a lot more often in much more matchups, and it still hits extremely hard. You just do lose out on the versatility of running a Choice Scarf or a Z move, so it does lose out a bit there, but it's still a very good pick.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Mega Latios is one of the most dangerous sweepers for both the physical and special side. And now we're going to have Mega Scissor in for the Arcane Arcanines and Altaria Modas. Mega Scissor is, again, one of the best Megas in the format, but as you kind of mentioned with Latios, it is limited a little bit with that Mega Stone being in place, but Scissor is one of the most dangerous setup sweepers when it has the Sword Stance up, just because of that Technician ability. Not much things are going to want to take a bullet punch after even just one SD. It also does get Defog and Roost for the for those, and it's a good pivot with U-turn, as well as Knockoff.
Yeah, it's one of the most deadly Pokemon against bulky offense and hyper offense drafts. Priority is so strong against those types of teams, and because it's so bulky, it's really versatile. All you need to do is really cover the fire types and it's walling everything. Anyway, next up is Landorus T. Landorus T is a phenomenally versatile Pokemon. It does everything you could possibly want except Cleric, realistically. Its attack stat is so high, and so are its defenses, especially when you bolster it with Intimidate, which makes it really good. It's also a really strong Z user, especially with dual dance options. Z Fly is phenomenal on it, so it's not really walled by much of anything because you can just run a Z move to cover for it, or it can be run very well defensively, or potentially even Scarf is very common. So yeah, it's just really hard to deal with. A lot of people will resort to using Hidden Power Ice, but then you're just getting Yachi Berry countered. Next up is Hutch, who doesn't seem to have a pick.
Yeah, we are waiting for Hutch's pick.
Oh, sorry about that. I've literally gotten sniped already 2 times this round, so...
Ooh, that's rough.
Yep.
Very
That
rough.
is very unfortunate,
Mega Scissor
luckily.
and Zygarde.
Ooh.
Oof. Luckily, I had the 4th pick, so I didn't have to worry about that. But here we go. We do have Excadrill for the Portland Timbers, and this is the signs of the Sand team rolling in. Excadrill obviously being pretty much the best Sandstorm sweeper in the format. If you set up a SD, it's gonna put in incredible work. It also has a very good move pool, being able to hit things like fairies with, or not fairies. You know what? Never mind about that. But it also is a good hazard setter with Stealth Rock and remover with Rapid Spin, and it's one of the best mons to break through those bulky teams.
Yeah, surprisingly versatile too. And next up is Heatran. Heatran's, the meme is always why you first picking Heatran, especially with Gator, but it's actually an extremely solid Pokemon. People think that its weakness comes from its 4 times weakness to ground, but honestly that's pretty easily compensated for with Sugar Berry and with good team support, so that's not really an issue. It's a fantastic defensive Pokemon even though it doesn't have reliable recovery, but it also is like super solid on the offense too. Magnastorm trapping can get rid of a lot of really bulky defensive walls. It can run Specs and Scarf to just blow teams away with its really strong stab fire move, so really good pick.
Yeah, and speaking of hard hitting, as I believe you said, I don't even know. We have Greninja here for, I don't know, we have Greninja here for the London Labrys and Cody. Greninja obviously is going to be the Torrent, I believe, but that does not make it bad at all. It is a very fast mon with 122 speed, and it can be run both physically and especially with U-turn. But honestly, it's really good at just breaking teams down if you put a Specs or Scarf on it, even Life Orb, however you wanna make it. But with its insane move pool, it can really hit almost anything super effectively. Like, looking through its move pool, I don't even see a type that isn't hit super effectively.
Yeah, the big thing that Greninja offers is the Spike and T-Spike support, though it's like a really strong support option for a lot of teams, and because of its typing, it's not really hurt too much by anything like that. So next up is Muckalola. This is a very interesting looking team so far. Muckalola is very strong Pursuit Trapper. We saw it put in a lot of work in the off-season. It's a fantastic curse setter as well. It can definitely sweep through a lot of teams quite effectively or offer a lot of support on the special defense side, trapping big threats like the Laddies and like Starmie and other psychic types. So very strong pick there. It's very interesting to see Cody jumping right into the TFT, especially with all these support options that you would expect to be paired with something specific.
And now we have Latios for the Houston Hoopas and AZ. Latios already taken in Mega Latios, so Pure Latios gone basically too. But anyways, Latios is very versatile mon. It can be run defensively with it's a good cleric, you know. It gets defog for the hazards. You can set up screens. You can T-wave things. It can kind of do whatever you want, but it also is a very dangerous setup sweeper with Calm Mind, and is able to put on a lot of work. Also with Reflect type being used a lot more, and it synergizes pretty well with the Heatran, obviously being immune to its quad weakness and also being immune to water, whereas Heatran is resistant to things like Dragon and Fairy that Latios is weak to.
And next up is Megachar Y. This is a very interesting pick. I am very excited to see Megacharizard Y drafted for, I think, the first time in ASL history. It's a stupidly strong Pokemon that I was actually thinking of drafting this season, but decided not to.
Yeah, I've been sniped 3 times now. Latios is what I wanted.
No fun, but dual weather potential is very strong. I could definitely see a T-Star coming out to Pursuit Trap a lot of Charizard's walls, or maybe like a Gothitelle or something to trap them. But yeah, with the right support, Charizard is an incredible Pokemon, and Excadrill does provide a lot of that support, being arguably the best spinner in the format, maybe behind like Delmise or Starmie. So yeah, I can definitely see this team ending up very threatening with the right picks.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Mega Charizard Y in the sun is very dangerous. But now we have Deoxys Speed for you. I'll let you handle this one if you want.
So, Deoxys Speed is a bit of a contentious Pokemon. A lot of people think it should be banned, but its big flaw is coming from the fact that its offensive stats are a little bit on the low side, but it can bolster that with good setup. It provides some hazard support with spikes. It's actually can be really strong with specs or nasty plot, so really strong Z user, and yeah, just like overall a very good Pokemon. It was banned to Ubers for a reason, but we've got it allowed here, which is cool to see.
And now we have Garchomp for the Arcane Arcanines, and the Mega Scissor Garchomp is hitting you very hard. But Garchomp, Garchomp obviously pairing really well with the Mega Scissor. Both are very dangerous Swords Dance Sweepers. Oh, okay, the stream's back.
Just had to reload it. There was just technical difficulty.
And Garchomp also being able to set up rocks is a good thing. But Mega Scissor and Garchomp also synergize very well just, in terms of taking each other's hits and are able to break down teams that are bulky pretty well, at least on the special side. But with Rocky Helmet, Rough Skin, it can also be run defensively if you want to do that.
So next up is Manaphy. Manaphy is the scourge of all balanced teams. With Tail Glow boosting its special attack so high immediately, it can really easily break through teams. And since we do allow Z status, it can also run Z Rain Dance to outspeed a lot of offensive teams. So Manaphy is an incredibly strong breaker. It's going to be paired with Mega Latios. It's going to be very difficult to defensively prepare against. Even though they don't necessarily cover each other's weaknesses super well, they're both just such strong options that require different walls to deal with them. It's going to be really hard to properly prepare against.
Yeah, and now we have Mega Beedrill for the Heart Whalmers, a surprising second round pick, considering that I think it could at least last to the third round, because he had the...
Yeah, I agree.
But another physical mon for the Hartford Whalmers, and Mega Beedrill obviously being one of the fastest mons allowed in the format with base 145 speed and 150 attack, making that plus adaptability incredibly hard. And it does have little switch-ins to just to it if it makes, or if the user makes the right choice, but it is also a good pivot with U-turn.
Yeah. Next up is my Milotic, another somewhat unorthodox second round pick. I feel it's very strong defensively for sure. It's taken up a lot of hits, especially if you want to run like the Flame Orb Marble Scale set. It's just doesn't do much of anything on the offense for the most part. You're just going to be keeping it there to soak up the hits where it can be. And I personally am not a huge fan of wolves that can't put on some offensive pressure, because I feel like at that point you're just going to be taken advantage of, but still a quite solid defensive order.
Now we have Necrozma for the Utah Hoots. Necrozma being a very versatile mon. It does get stealth rocks, and it is very good defensively, being able to heal up with Moonlight, set up screens, all the things that you would want to do. But it's also another very dangerous autotomized sweeper, and it can be run both physical and special with a very insane move coverage and move pool. I guess Rock Polish too.
Yeah, got a big buff this season. Next up is TJ with the Snorlax pick, and people are really taking advantage of this new system that we've got going on. Snorlax is like super bulky, normal type Pokemon. It's very solid Pokemon overall. It's got some quite high attack stats if you want to abuse that with Curse, but for the most part you're going to be wanting to keep it a bit more on the defensive side. Rest Talk potentially, or Ludney with the Figgy Berry type of stuff is very difficult to break down.
Yeah, and now we have Mega Diancie for myself. Mega Diancie is a very interesting Mega that is in Puree, and it synergizes pretty well with Pure and Black in my opinion, so I thought I'd give it a try. I've always wanted to use it in a draft league, But Mega Diancie and Kieran Black, they both hit physical and special. Mega Diancie also adding a Stealth Rock setter for me, and basically just a great lead with Magic Bounce, not allowing anything to get past it.
Next up, Shadow is drafted Victini. Victini is one of the top 5 kill leaders in the season. He's incredibly strong with V-Create, Spam. It can be run special with stuff like Psychic and Energy Ball, so it's like extremely difficult to properly prepare for. Even if you've got that bulky water, you're just going to get fusion bolted. It does somewhat have to run like Banded to really be a solid breaker. So it is limited. Once you know it's set, you can kind of deal with it, but until you do figure out the set, it's going to be an incredibly hard Pokemon to deal with and prep. It's just got so many options.
Yeah, agreed. And now we have Zapdos for the Phoenix Flygons and Keister. Zapdos, just a very good mon in the format. Like, I don't know how else exactly to describe it besides that, but it's very good defensively. It does remove hazard, defog, and is a great pivot, getting both U-turn and Volt Switch. You can also set up things like Tailwind. But I've also seen it run offensively. It does have things like Heat Wave for those ice types that dreads.
Next up is Mamoswine, and it feels like Brad's just taking my plan and running with it at this point. Mamoswine's a very solid ground type. Its biggest advantage is that it's not 4 times weak to any hidden power, so it is still a very good electric check. So it removes one of Coco's best answers from the board, which is fantastic. It also has that really strong priority to deal with anything that might be faster than Coco, breaking down a lot of things, but its main problems are things that Coco deals with, so that's very strong synergy.
Yeah, and now for the same route we have Tangrowth, so into round 3. And making Brad's team look very scary. Tangrowth is great, especially because of its ability Regenerator, making it able to switch in and out on things a lot easier. It is a great check with either Rocky Helmet or AV if you want to run it defensively, but it also does hit hard with over base 100 attack and special attack stats, and it is able to knock off.
Yeah, a lot of versatility there. Next up is Mega Lopunny, the absolute opposite of versatility. It's basically just going to be returning and high jump kicking, but it does have some extra options for that 4th move slot. It's got things like Encore, all the elemental punches, Healing Wish if you want to run that. You could run Power Up Punch, Last Resort even. So it does have some tech options, but for the most part it's going to be countered by the same few things. Although emphasis on few, very little wants to switch in on that Pokemon.
Yeah, and now we have Hippowdon for the PC Barcelona and Shadow, taking that option away from Hutch if he does want to run a Hippowdon team, although there are plenty of other options out there. But Hippowdon is a very great mon outside of Sand, used by Hutch in, it was like last season, right?
Season 3.
Season before. Oh, okay, yeah, season 3. But yeah, it was very good, just a very tanky mon on the defensive side.
I'll let you talk about Crest as well because it's your pick.
Yes, one of the greatest surprise picks ever in ASL history, in my opinion. I'm going to take Cresselia. Cresselia is just, it's amazing. It can really just check almost anything if you run the right set. And it does obviously get Moonlight for the heals. It can looter dance things. You can set up screens. It's just kind of can do whatever you want on the defensive side, but is also an incredibly threatening Calm Mind sweeper if you want to run that too.
Alright, next up is Vaporeon, another really strong defensive water Pokemon, but the difference is that this one has Wish support, so that makes it a lot better as a team player. TJ's team is already looking incredibly difficult to break down. Just adding that Wish support makes it even harder to deal with. It's once again not extremely threatening on the offensive side, but it's clear that he doesn't really care about that right now. He's just trying to wall you out a bit while still keeping some versatile picks in the install list. So it's going to be interesting to see how this team ends up. But I am interested in the trend that everyone seems to be going for that tier Bs.
Yeah, and TJ's team does look a lot similar to a team I had in the past, but that's not important. We see Weavile for the Utah Hoots. I really like this pick. Weavile is a great physically offensive threat for Susie's team, which was somewhat lacking that, but I guess not, because both of his other Pokemon do hit pretty well. Weavile is not really as versatile as Necrozma and somewhat Mega Venusaur, but with the Swords Dance up, it's going to hit incredibly hard. You slap a Life Orb on it, it's going to hit hard. It has very few switch-ins, and it does have a good move pool with the Poison Jab, but it is kind of just pick the moves.
And next up is Meloetta. Meloetta is very surprising to me, but I know that Cam really likes this Pokemon. Meloetta's got a lot of versatility on the special side. It can Calm Mind, Specs, Assault Vest very effectively. And then it also has the Purette form, which isn't like the best option because you have to Relic Song first and you don't keep it when you switch out, but it's still definitely an option that you need to be ready for. You gotta prepare for a lot of different things when fighting a Meloetta, which does make it quite a frustrating one to deal with, but it does make his Dark Weakness a lot more prevalent now too, with 2 Psychic types already in 3 picks. It will be interesting to see how this ends up.
For the Hartford Whalers, wow, I can't pronounce. They're going to pick Decidueye, the 3rd mainly physical attacker, but I'm guessing TCP will cover that up because he is TCP. Decidueye is a good hazard remover for the Beedrill, but it is also a good offensive threat physically too with the Swords Dance. I think, oh no, but all 3 of these mons are just dangerous Swords Dance, or not Swords Dance, setup sweepers. It can also be ran defensively. It does get things like Haze, and it does get Synthesis for the heals. It also does get priority and Spirit Shackle. Nice.
Decidueye is very solid. Anyway, next up is Kartana, definitely also very solid grass type Pokemon. This is the all-time kill leader of her season count, getting 28 kills last season. Very solid Pokemon, but honestly, if you know how to prep for it, it's a lot easier to deal with anything. Hidden Power Fire from literally anything will kill this Pokemon, so if you can just find yourself a Scarfer that outspeeds it, then run HP Fire on it, you've counted every single Kartana set that can be run. Still very solid breaker though, and very difficult to deal with if you're not ready for it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But now we have Slowbro for the Arcanines and Altarian Motives. Slowbro being a good tier B mon, probably one of the better picks for tier B, and I'm guessing that's why it was picked at the 3rd round. But with the ability Regenerator, it is able to switch in and out of things very well, and it also can heal a Slack Off. But we've seen a lot of Belly Drum sets, you know, like Trick Room sets. Like Slowbro is where the memes are at, and I'm expecting that from the season.
Alright, and I decided to pick the mascot himself, Mega Kangaskhan. I did not expect to get this Pokemon at all. My plan was basically to get Landorus T and then one of like 17 different broken tier 8 Pokemon, but instead I got 2 of those Pokemon in Mega Kangaskhan. Mega Kangaskhan might not be quite as strong as stuff like Mega Medicham, especially after the nerf, but its base 100 speed plus phenomenal defense just makes it a real threat defensively. It's threatening enough on the offense, but still really good on the defense, especially considering it gets Wish, and with a massive HP stat, that's going to be really helpful to the Landorus T.
And now we have Keldeo for Hutch in Portland Timbers. Keldeo not used much in the ASL in the past, but I'm looking forward to Hutch using it this season.
I love this one.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. It does fit his team pretty well. Honestly, Keldeo is a mon that I know very little about. It does get the Justified ability, which is nice when you run it physically. And it can switch in on knockoffs, especially if he's like a Z move. That would be nice. But it also is good setup with Calm Mind and Swords Dance. So really, Keldeo is a threat, physically or specially, and it's going to be hard to prep.
Next up is
Cool.
Mega Aerodactyl, another incredibly fast Pokemon. It's got some really strong options. It's got all the elemental things, and with whatever Tough Claws equivalent thing is, I think it's Strong Jaw. It can do a lot of damage off of those fangs. It's got Stone Edge, and it's also very strong as like a lead or anti-lead option with Stealth Rocks, Fast Taunt. Makes it a pretty solid Store Breaker even. So Mega Aerodactyl's got a lot of options, definitely very helpful mon for the team. Very good tier B pick.
Yeah, and now we have another interesting pick by Cody, not going with any tier A's, and he's going to go with Tornadus 5. Another mon that I don't know a whole lot about, mainly just because it is not used that much. It does get 2 good abilities in Prankster and Defiant, but besides that, I've really just seen it used, like, does get Tailwind, and it is very similar to Tornadus T, which was surprisingly not picked before, or maybe it was. But it does have a pretty good move pool, and I'm really excited to see Cody use it.
Yeah, next up is Slurpuff for Cody, another tier B pick. I think he's waiting for the end for his tier A's, because then he can just get whatever he wants without hearing the snipes. But Slurpuff is a very solid belly drum setter, and this gen it also gets sticky webs, which makes it a great support option. It's also can be run specially, it's even got Wish, so it's a pretty decent fairy type, all things considered.
Yeah, and now we have we have... Wait, shoot, is this the wheel? We have Tapu Bulu, that's it. Tapu Bulu doesn't spin. We have Tapu Bulu for the Houston Hoopas. Tapu Bulu is a very, very, very hard-hitting mon. I used it last season very well, obviously. But Tapu Bulu is it's gonna complete his Fairy Dragon Steel Core. But really, if you have that thing in and you click Woodhammer, it has like 0 switches.
And next up is a Moongus. Moongus is a really strong defensive Pokemon. It also has more attack than Talonflame, which is fun. So it's definitely fits the bill of a threatening defensive Pokemon. Regenerator makes it a fantastic pivot. It allows them to pivot in Mega Charizard Y off of forcing switches with things like Spore. And now that it gets Stomping Tantrum, a lot of the switch-ins now cannot really switch in quite so well. The fire types and the steel types are not really wanting to come in on this thing just in case it goes for that option. Next up is Metagross for me. I'll talk about that. Yeah, Metagross is just a really solid steel type from tier B. It's got fantastic stats. It was like OU for Gen 4 and 5 for a reason. Just really strong option, both offensively and defensively. It gets rocks. It gets stuff like the suit and whatnot, so it's like a really good switch into psychic types if you suit them out. So it's like got a lot of versatility. So great tier B pick for me, I feel.
Yep, and now we have Clefable completing the core and the tier A picks for the Arcane Arcanines, and his team is looking both scary and familiar. But Clefable is arguably one of the best fairies in the format. Really not arguably, I think it is. With great abilities in Magic Guard and Unaware. It also can set up hazards, and it's going to be able to really tank anything you want, and it's also one of the best clerics, being able to support the Arcane Arcanines very well this season.
And next up is Rotom H for the Master. This is a very solid pivot. Rotom got Defog this gen, and while Rotom Heat is not the best form for defogging, it's definitely a very solid defensive Pokemon if you can keep away the rocks for it. Volt Switch and Will-O-Wisp make it very hard to switch into because most ground types do not want to take a Wisp at all. It's also very strong, so you're going to see like Scarf and Specs run fairly often. And what's really good about it is it's one of the Pokemon that can kind of deal with Kartana pretty well, so once again, getting rid of Pokemon off of your draft that can deal with it is very solid.
Yeah, and now we're going to have Primarina for the Hartford Whalmers. Primarina, finally a special mon for TCP. is very well. This fits his team well. It hits very hard with specs, showing off a 126 special attack stat. But if you can run it really specially offensive or defensive. Those are really your options. With an AV, it's going to be tanking things like a champ. It also does get priority in Aqua Jet, which I haven't seen used much, but
yes, not very strong priority though. Next up is Nihilego. Nihilego is quite nice because it offers both T-Spike and Stealth Rock support for his team. I can see Milotic really taking advantage of the T-Spike support in patching up its otherwise lack of offensive presence. But Nihilego is definitely a big threat in its own right. It's typically completely walled by steel types, which is an issue that you need to deal with, but otherwise, once you get those down, a solid Scarf set, abusing Space Boost can definitely sweep through a lot of teams.
And now we have Klefki for the Utah Hoots. Klefki I haven't seen in a while, but it suits his team very well, and with the Prankster ability, is going to be able to support his team very nicely. Prankster for Klefki allows it to do a lot of things. Just supportively, it can Thunder Wave, it can Switcheroo, it can set up screens, and it does get defog now, so that is a nice buff for Klefki. And it does actually hit sort of hard with the play ref when you're not expecting it. It also does get Magic Coat and Spikes, two other things for the hazards.
Yep, and next up is Rabombi. Rabombi is a very solid sticky web set of this gen, which is very good support for a lot of teams. Not seeing it here just yet, but I'm sure that'll change soon. It's also quite good in its own right. With super fast speed and access to Quiver Dance, it's actually going to be able to sweep quite well if you can get rid of that steel type. So it's definitely a threat that you need to look out for.
Yeah, and now we have Rodamo for myself. Rodamo is one of the best Rotoms. I guess there's only a couple of Rotoms, but in the Tier B format, and it is a good hazard with I don't know how to word. It's a good hazard with Volt Switch, and it is able to check things pretty well. It does get Will-O-Wisp and Trick, throwing off a lot of teams. It also does get Defog, which is a nice buff for this generation, similar to Klefki. And if you put a Specs on it and Trick, it's going to be both hitting hard and being able to allow you to do some nice things.
And next up is Swellow. Swellow is a very powerful Pokemon, especially considering it can run both physical and special. Special is its better set right now with Specs Boom Burst blowing through a lot of teams, and he's got one of the best counters to it in Celesteela, so it's going to be ripping through a lot of teams. But then if you just expect that, then all of a sudden Flame or Guts boosted Brave Birds are going to blow you away. They do kind of have similar checks in the steel types, but for the most part, you're going to need to be careful of this Pokemon in both sets.
Yeah, and now we have Entei for the Phoenix Flygons. Entei is a very hard-hitting mon. Especially with a band, you are not going to want to take a Sacred Fire or Flare Blitz from this thing. And extreme speed makes it dangerous on the priority side. But it can also be run specially with the moves like Overheat and such. It also does get Will-O-Wisp, so you see that used sometimes just to throw off those physical counters.
Next up is Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is a very solid defensive Pokemon that, once again, you don't see picked too often in this format, especially considering it was Tier A last season. But it's extremely difficult to break down. Roost just gives it so much longevity. Dark Flying type is really solid. And he's got one of the best ways of breaking it down, and two fantastic answers to Electric. So this Pokemon is going to be putting in work. And the great thing about it is also having access to Foul Play makes it really quite a threat to the other physical attackers.
And again, for the same route, we have Empoleon. Empoleon is going to be a hazard remover for the Mandibuzz, so that is his second hazard remover. But it also is a oh right, I'm sorry. It also is a hazard setter with the Stealth Rocks, and it is a good check to the set up sweepers with Roar. It also can hit pretty hard with the base 111 special attack and a pretty good move pool.
Next up is Jellicent, and Jellicent's a very, very good defensive water type Pokemon in my opinion. Water Absorb makes it a water immunity, which is really nice. It switches into those skulls. Ghost typing means it's one of the best rapid spin blocker in my opinion. And Will-O-Wisp means that it's burning all the physical attackers if you're not feeling like it with Scald. It's got recovery. It just does everything you really want out of a bulky water type. So it's definitely a solid pick for tier B.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that as we wait on the next pick for the PC Barcelona in Shadow, and we're going to have Jolteon. Jolteon, oh shoot, what have I done? Well, never mind. Jolteon is one of the fastest mons we have with a 130 base stat, speed, and Volt Absorb, making it a very being a very good ability. It is mainly just run with like Life Orb or Specs. It does have Pivot and Volt Switch and Baton Pass even, if you want to do that, Wish Baton Pass. But mainly you're just gonna run in and click Volt Switch or T-Bolt or whatever you need sometimes in Power Ice. But it is a good fast tier B pick for the PC Barcelona.
Yeah, I agree. Why don't you talk about your own pick as well?
Alright, and I'm going to pick Bronzong for my Steel type, completing my core. I do know that it is another Psychic type, but we'll see how that works, considering they both can be used in different ways. But Bronzong is going to be another hazard setter for me with the rocks, and is going to be just a really good support mon that I'm excited to use this season.
And next up is a tier C pick in round 5. This is interesting. The Scavalier. His team's looking pretty slow right now. The Scavalier is not even really going to be helped much by webs. It's still getting outsped by a lot of things, but boy does it hit hard. It's got like base 145 attack or something like that. It's hitting you super hard with Iron Hedge. It's also forcing out those steel types, those psychic types and clicking pursuit, so it's like got a lot of support options there.
Yep, and now we have Alomomola for the Utah Hoops and Suzy. Alomomola is one of those mons that you just put in and allow it to tank a hit, being one of the best physically defensive checks in the game with an impressive base stat of 165 HP. Usually you just get it in there, throw up a Wish or a Scald, and get on out of there, and it is able to switch into things very well with its Regenerator ability.
So next up is Vikavolt, and Cam's draft is looking pretty unorthodox right here. And Vikavolt's fairly bulky, but it's very slow for an electric type. Usually when you're drafting electric types, the faster ones are going to be the ones more in demand, so that you can get off Volt Switches and get out of there quickly. But Vikavolt kind of does the opposite. It's going to want to come in, take the hit, and then Volt Switch out to bring in its threats safely. Its Levitate means that it's going to be another ground switch in from Nihilego. And yeah, it can also run agility, and then actually will be starting to outspeed some stuff and hit very hard.
And now we have Registeel. Interesting, we have two Regis for the Hartford Whalers. Both do perform somewhat similar tasks, but I guess Registeel is versatile on the defensive side versatile on the defensive and offensive side, having the same stats for each. But Registeel is another good rock setter for the Whalmers. Also being just very good, able to counter some of the things that it needs. It also can hit pretty hard, does have very good move pool, and with Rock Polish, it is going to be able to put in some work, just like the other Reggies.
Yeah, I'd love to see some wish support for this team, but because he's got 3 really good defensive Pokemon in Zygarde and 2 Reggies that just don't have reliable recovery. So if he can get some good wish support coming soon, then he's going to be really quite set for dealing with all of that. Next up is Umbreon, and I can't tell how it fits in with the rest of this team right now, and 2 picks are showing up, but Umbreon is a very solid defensive wish pass for sure. Dark typing is very solid for being Ghost Switch in, and he's got Kartana and Rose Manaphy as well. So yeah, it's a good switch into a lot of types. For the Mega Latios in particular, it's not gonna be taking the Fairy types, which is kind of nerfed it a bit, but it's still a very solid pick overall. Foul play just means that it's going to be threatening those physical attackers, so it can't really be taken advantage of too hard, while offering good support for the team.
Yeah, and now we're gonna have Heliolisk for the Arcane Arcanines. An interesting tier B pick, but I do like it. Heliolisk hits pretty hard with a Specs, obviously. Having its best stats at special attack and speed, which I believe are both the same number. And interestingly enough, it does get abilities like Dry Skin and Solar Power, so interesting in the weather if he decides to draft that, who knows, but it's going to be a good pivot for the Arcane Arcanine.
Next up is Incineroar, and it's recently actually had Intimidate released, so it's going to be forming a really nice Intimidate for through Landorus T. It gets access to U-turn, so it's going to be able to come in, pivot out, and bring in threats like Mega Kang and Metagross quite well. It's also just hits really hard in its own right. Flare Blitz is just a beast of a move, and Darkest Lariat's really quite good against Pokemon thinking that they want to set up. It also gets its own unique Z move, which means that I can be hitting them even harder if I choose to put a Z Crystal on this Pokemon. So yeah, it's going to be quite difficult to deal with.
Yeah, and now we have Slowking for the Portland Timbers. Slowking, a mon I believe that you had last season, and used it pretty well. Also having that Regenerator ability, making it able to switch in and out of a lot of things. And it's very similar to the Slowbro I was talking about earlier. Slowking, looking at it, has a very insane move pool. Wow. But Slowking is really just going to be used well on the defensive side, able to switch in and out with Regenerator and
I'd also like to note that I've been sniped 5 times, and 3 of those times have been by Ian. So thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Ralph's still looking good, dude. I'm mad so far.
So mad.
Anyway, next up is Mantine. Now this is going to look pretty damn nice, honestly, on the team. He's got a defensive core of Heatran, Bulu, Mantine. This is a really solid Fire Water Grass core to be rocking up with. Bulu's going to be healing up the Tran, and Mantine's going to be just being Mantine, coming in on those water attacks and ice attacks. It's just very defensive. Scald Burn's going to be an issue for people. It's just very passive as well, which doesn't really fit in with the rest of the team quite, but still definitely a solid option for water types.
Yeah, and now we have Mega Aggron for the London Lapras completing its tier Bs. Yeah, Mega Aggron, probably one of his better tier B picks, although looking at it, they're all pretty good. Is going to be his Mega also, and it's just very thick with a 230 base defense stat and 140 base attack stat. Mega Aggron is a threat. Its ability Filter makes it able to take its attacks a lot better, and it synergizes very well with this team so far.
And next up is starting into Tier C already. He refuses to go into Tier A, but it's Munsdale. Munsdale's definitely a lot better this version now that it's gotten access to Stealth Rocks. Stamina makes it a really competent defensive wall too. It's just going to be taking the hits better and better the more it progresses. Its offensive move pool isn't the best, but it's good enough to really be threatening with Earthquake, Stone Edge, etc. And yeah, just all around be an annoying Pokemon to deal with for 2C.
Yeah, now we're going to have Zoroark for the Houston Hoopas. Zoroark used well last season by TCP, and is an interesting Tier B mon with obviously with its ability illusion. But it's gonna hit very hard with its base 120 special attack, and it has a decent attack as well. And it's basically just gonna be used to trick things. I'm excited to see how he uses it. It also is a pivot with U-turn, and yeah. Also has a good shiny. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Zoroark. Its ability is super fun to use. It's gone backwards. Hang on.
Yeah, 1 sec. One sec. Should be coming through in a minute. Sorry about the delay.
I'm sure they forgive us. Next up is Zygarde Tenderstep. This is a fun Pokemon to use. It's nowhere near as bulky as its 50% Duo, but it just hits just as hard, same attack stat. So Choice Banded, Thousand Arrows, it's going to be putting in all the same kind of work. And even though it isn't as bulky, it's a lot faster, so it's going to be difficult to outspeed and switch into things. It gets all the same move pool, so you can still go ahead and run Dragon Dance or Coil if you want. You can. It's got extreme speed, which is great priority, and yeah, few switch-ins, but Charizard Y deals with those for the most part. Anyway, next up is Roserade for me. I'll talk about this pick. Roserade's one of my favorite grass types. It's really bulky, but also super strong. Base 90 speed is also quite nice. It's just got good all-around stats. This gives me Toxic Spikes and a second Spike Setter, so I'm not forced to run Spikes on Deoxys speed. It can run very strong Scarf Set or Spec Set and break through a lot of things. It does have some trouble with skill types, but I'm fairly sure I've got that covered with Landorus and Incineroar, so solid pick.
Yeah, now we're going to have Chestnut for the Arcane Arcanines. Chestnut is an interesting Tier B pick, but I've seen it used very well over the past seasons. Bulletproof being an interesting ability, and sometimes can be used very well if the opposing team doesn't know. But it is best used defensively with the Leech Seed and Spiky Shield, making it able to recover a lot. But it also does have a good attack stat and does hit hard with a pretty good move pool to support it.
Yeah, next up is Aerodactyl, and I'm not sure why Demaster's roster's glitching out here, but bear with us. I'm sure we'll be able to fix it up soon. Sorry about all the stream resets, but yeah, Aerodactyl is here. Very fast Pokemon. And Brad showed us how threatening it can be offensively too. It's mainly going to be used for its support. It's got a fast taunt, it's got Roost if you want to do that, it's got Stealth Rock, so it's a very solid lead option, especially when you've got all those massive threats before it.
Yeah, Aerodactyl is a very good fast flying type that does support the Denver Numels. Well, I
Let's talk about Espeon.
Yeah, so yeah, it's me. So we have Espeon for the for Whalmers, and Espeon is slept on a lot, but it is very hard hitting with a 130 base special attack and 110 base speed, with very good abilities in Synchronize and Magic Bounce, and it is another Wish support. if you want to run it like that. But with a Calm Mind Up or a Specs, it is hitting incredibly hard with the Psychic, the Psyshock, the Shadow Ball, the Dazzling Gleam, and it also is a good Cleric for the Heartful Whammers.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Espeon, and I'm also a pretty big fan of this Pokemon. Dhelmise is, in my opinion, one of, if not the best spinners in the game, as well as one of, if not the best spin blockers in the game. So it's offering that 2-for-1 potential. It's Ghost typing and Grass typing means that it's going to be walling a lot of the common spinners in Excadrill and Starmie, for example. It doesn't want to get switched in on by other spin blockers because of that Ghost Stab typing. It's going to be able to blow those away if they want to try to come in. And it also can just set up a Swords Dance and do a lot of damage.
Yeah, and now we're going to have Galvantula for the Utah, just giving Susie, aka Mr. Spider, that nice Sticky Web support with Galvantula. But besides Sticky Webs, it's a good pivot, and you know, it's usually ran the same way, just compound eyes, you know, Thunder, Volt Switch. It does have the grass moves for those ground types though, and I'm excited to see Susie use it because I haven't seen Susie use a lot of these before besides Mega Venusaur. So
yeah. Next up is Donphan. Donphan's another really good support Pokemon here. It gets Spin and Rocks. It does get switched in. Doesn't get switched in on by Ghost types too easily because it does pack that knockoff. So it's got the threats there. It's got Ice Shards to deal with some common setters if it wants to deal with that. So it can spin pretty easily. So definitely a solid Pokemon. It's got good bulk to be a good switch in for this team. But it also rocks some quite nice offensive stats and can run Rock Polish if you want to run that to really help sweep teams as well. So overall, quite a solid Pokemon.
Yeah. And now, oh wait, we're waiting on a pick here from me, which I have picked, by the way. But yeah, Donphan, good pick for the Subbohemians. This draft is going pretty fast, not gonna lie. We're making good time.
Yeah. Your pick's up, by the way.
Yeah, I must just be delayed or something. But now we have Weezing for me in the St. Louis Swablues. Weezing is another defensive mon that I've used it before, but obviously not that well. Levitate making a nice ability, so it is immune to one of its what would be a weakness. It is a really great defensive threat. It does have things like the Will-O-Wisp, the Haze, the Pain Split. It also is a good T-Spike setter and does get things like Destiny Bond as well.
So next up is a new and improved Araquanid. This season it has access to Sticky Web, so that's going to make that Victini and that Celesteela and Swellow way more threatening and way harder to outspeed. It's also a very strong Pokemon in its own right thanks to Water Bubble, doubling the power of its liquidations and stuff. It also has some tech trapping options in on it. Spider Web, so you can Spider Web Toxic and still down a lot of the prominent water types that are going to be wanting to come in, which definitely helps out with the Victini. So yeah, it's a great Pokemon.
Yeah, and now we're going to have Whimsicott for the Phoenix Flygons, completing his Firewater Grass Core. And Whimsicott, I really like this pick. Whimsicott seems to support the team very well, and is a fairy for him. Whimsicott, obviously with the Prankster ability, is going to annoy the crap out of you. Does get the things like Taunt, Tailwind, Sub, Memento, Encore obviously, and its buff for this season is obviously going to be the Defog, making it a very good supportive mon for the Phoenix Flygons, especially with already 2 Rocks weaknesses in Jirachi and Entei.
Yeah, and next up is Brad's pick of Dragalge. Dragalge is he's really supporting this Coco quite effectively. Galgi's really powerful dragon type choice. It's also got access to T spikes and can absorb other T spikes, so that's going to be really nice to support the team and hit really hard. He's got some nice pivots to bring it in quite effectively, and yeah, it once again removes a Pokemon that otherwise is somewhat dealing with Tapu Koko from the board, so it's definitely a solid all-around pick for this team. I'm really liking how his draft is shaping up right now.
Yeah, and his wheel pick should be coming in shortly. His second wheel pick is going to be my boy, Lee Jenkins. Hitmonlee. Man, I haven't even used it in a while, but Hitmonlee, a good tier B hazard remover and a hard hitter with the abilities like Limber, Unburden, and Reckless. It's going to be used very well by Anderson, one of the best coaches. It is a hazard remover, and after an item loss, it's very threatening, just due to its speed increase, and with Reckless, it's hitting incredibly hard with high jump kick. It also does get a lot of priority with Fake Out, Mob Punch, and Bullet Punch.
Yeah, next up is Flygon, a very solid draft and ground type Pokemon. Also getting Levitate, so once again, just be a great ability all around. It's got access to stuff like Dragon Dance to help sweep, so it makes it a very nice C user. It's also a very solid Scarfer. It also has access to some Boost and Defog, so it can be run defensively quite effectively to help support the team if he wants to put less pressure on stuff like the Zapdos. So it's got a lot of versatility for a tier VP.
Yeah, Flygon being a Dragon type for the Phoenix Flygons. And now we have Miss Magius for the PC, Barcelona, and Shadow. And Miss Magius is kind of just not very versatile. It does have a versatile move pool, but if you have a nasty plot with Miss Magius up, it actually has little switch-ins, especially if you make it a Z user. It also does get a lot of good support moves like Trick, Will-O-Wisp, Heal Bell, and with like or Toxic or Thunder Wave. So if you do have status, like Hex, Miss Magius is dangerous. Oh shoot.
Oh, I just saw that pick. Oh my god. Forfeiting my game against you.
Yeah, and
seems
yeah,
like a overall bad idea, but yeah.
I mean, obviously you would want to forfeit your game bends against me. It's a great idea. But here we have for me any second now. I'm probably delayed, so it might even be up.
Yeah, you are, because the pick's up.
Yeah, and now we have Feraligatr for myself. Obviously, I love me some Feraligatr. And Feraligatr can be used mainly for the physical attack, being a dangerous DD sweeper. This Life Orb, Sheer Force is like incredibly hard hitting, even with like no setup up. Also, Choice Band Feraligatr is dangerous as well. It does get Aqua Jet as priority. It also does have a pretty good defense stat and base 100 and an HP stat of 85 if you wanted to, I don't know, like check a Victini or something.
Yeah, next is Silvally coming in. Silvally is a very versatile option here. It does get all of the types, so you can definitely prepare with it to deal with specific threats quite easily. This version, it gets Defog, which is really nice support option as well, and Parting Shot just helps him bring in those Pokemon to set up. I'm definitely expecting two really big threats to come in from Tier A in the last two picks, because his team is looking to support something specific very well. You know, web support and Parting Shot support into it looks like very beneficial to offensive Pokemon.
Yeah, and now we have Haxorus for the Utah Hoots, a very dangerous dragon type into your B with the good ability in Mold Breaker, but it is just a very dangerous Dragon Dance sweeper with a almost base 100 speed and very high attack, and it also does have a great move pool as well. So it can be ran DD or Swords Dance. You can slap a band or scarf on it, but it's usually just going to be used for that offense and is going to hit very hard for the Utah Hoots.
Yeah, next up is Sneasel. Sneasel's quite a nice Pokemon for sure. It's not quite as good as Weavile, obviously, but it does very much do all the same things that you're wanting to do with a Weavile. Just spam knockoff to knock off everything's item, which is a bit nerfed with Z Crystals, but still a very solid option. High Stab is once again always fantastic to deal with. And the best part about it is having access to the suit to deal with all those pesky Psychic and Ghost type Pokemon that are going to be otherwise somewhat threatening for the Latios and Nihilego, and Meloetta even. So yeah, very solid pick there.
Yeah, and now we have a Liepard, the Heart Whalmers, a tier C pick, Liepard with the Prankster ability, I believe. Yeah, it just makes it very annoying. It is going to be one of those, just lead mons. It does get fake out, like Encore. So it is, somewhat similar like Taunt, so it'll be able to prevent the, hazards in some cases. And it does have a good speed stat in 106. But besides that, it's just gonna hit you on the physical side usually with its pretty decent move pool.
Yep, and next up for Demaster is Hitmontop, another quite solid defensive Pokemon with both access to Intimidate and Rapid Spin makes it quite capable of coming in to take a lot of hits that you probably wouldn't expect it to. It's great, like Dark Answer in particular for the Mega Latios, which is nice to see. And yeah, just spinning away the hazards is always good, especially for the Rodent Pete, who otherwise is going to be really suffering when it's trying to come in frequently to pivot out. So definitely a big fan of that. It's quite a strong spinner in the fact that it gets Foresight, so you can't always just expect to bring in a Ghost type and spin on it. So it's definitely solid there. It's also pretty strong, but usually you're going to run more defensive.
Yeah, and next up for the Arcane Arcanines, we have Drapion. Drapion is a T-Spike setter for the Arcane Arcanines and is going to be a very strong physical hitter. With Swords Dance up, it's very dangerous, being able to knock off things, and it does have a base 95 speed stat, so it can taunt some cases, prevent hazards, and it does get Roar to prevent
Setup, yeah.
Setup, yep. I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah, so next up from me is Zangoose. Zangoose now gets access to Belly Drum, so it's an incredibly powerful Pokemon. Belly Drum Quick Attack is very difficult to deal with, as I'm sure Hutch can attest with Linoon. It gets all the elemental punches, it gets close combat, knockoff. It can also just run like a Toxic Boost, Toxic Orb set with like Swords Dance and hit hard with that too. It's only really held back by its like relatively low speed stat, which is why it's in the low tier, but it's still a very big threat.
Yeah, and now we're going to have Scrafty for the Portland Timbers and Hutch. Scrafty I used last season, picking up a sweep, but yeah, it's not important. Scrafty is a very dangerous Dragon Dance sweeper, as my computer is malfunctioning. With the ability Moxie and Intimidate, being able to switch in a lot easier and like making it able to live attacks and set up. It also has a good bulk up rest is an interesting set that you can see with its Shed Skin ability, and it does have a good move pool in in its move pool, getting things like Head Smash.
Yeah, So next up is Piloswine. Piloswine's a very solid Pokemon here. Access to Stealth Rocks is always a good asset to have, and it's good for the same reasons that Mamoswine's good. It's one of the best electric checks in the game because it's not 4 times weak to any hidden powers. It's got thick stat, which means that it's not weak to fire or ice, so it's just like only really weak to fighting, which is definitely solid defensive typing. It also hits surprisingly hard for a typically defensive Pokemon with Earthquake, Ice Shard, and Superpower kind of coverage there.
Yeah, and now we're going to have Cryogonal, another tier C pick for the London Lapras, giving it a hazard remover and a good special wall in Cryogonal, and a little speed in base 105, but the speed tiers for the London Lapras are a little interesting. But yeah, now with Cryogonal getting Defog, it doesn't have to use Rapid Spin for its hazard removals, and it also does get recovery and recover.
Yeah. Next up is Flareon, a solid defensive fire option from tier C. I know it's sometimes just doesn't really perform like you would hope it would. You're often going to find yourself not wanting to bring it, but it definitely is still a nice pick with wish passing options, and can run offensive with Flame Charge, Flare Blitz if you want, but typically it's going to be like a nice solid fairy check that you're going to want to put in. So yeah, it's got a lot of versatility for tier C, which is always good to see.
Yep, and for the this is unfortunate, but for the Houston Hoopas, we have Licky. Is it up on the screen? I don't even know.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Wow, this is Licky is a great supportive mon getting Wish in tier B, I believe. But Licky is very dangerous both offensively and defensively. It does get belly drum, but it does have like a very, very good move pool, as well as a supportive move pool with the Wish and the Toxic as well. And Licky is going to be able to support his team pretty well with some with walls like Piloswine that don't have recovery, Heatran, and those kinds of things. It'll be nice.
Yeah, and next up is Fortress, and I've gone at length that how this Pokemon isn't particularly good, but as a tier B pick, it is quite solid. It's got access to all the hazards except Sticky Web, which makes it a great setter, and it also can spin. The issue is, of course, that it's rarely going to be able to do any of that. It's 4 times weakness to fire, and it's terrible offensive stats, meaning that it's easily abused. Basically, all it can hope for is to boom to prevent a defog or spin, but past that, it's really not going to be doing much. It's going to get spin on all day, every day. It's going to get killed quickly, so it's not the best pivot. But right. As a tier B pick, it's definitely quite solid.
Alright, so I can't let you disrespect Fortress like that. I used it in Season 3. I brought Bug Bite and almost one-shot and Mega Sharpedo. So, there will be
You know what,
heat.
my bad then.
There will be
My
heat.
bad. Okay, I'll take your word for it then. I'm going to talk about my own pick. I picked Ninetales Alolan Fawn. Obviously, fantastic option here with Aurora Valve for my team. Look at all my setup sweepers. Just look at the beauty of it, and look at how bulky they are. This is going to be very, very fun to use with dual screen support right there. It's also quite a good Pokemon in its own right. Base 109 speed with Ice and Fairy, a bridge is quite strong, even though it's going to be having trouble with steel types. It's still just a beaut to use with Specs or Scarf even.
Yep, and now we're going to have Frostlass for the Arcanines. Oh shoot, wait a minute. Frostlass is an interesting one with 110 speed being its high stat, mainly used for support, but I can see him using it well. I think as he has done in the past. It does get just the usual support moves that make it so good, but it also does get Destiny Bond, and it can hit surprisingly well just with the ice beam and such. And it does get pain split for recovery as well.
Next up is Venomoth. Venomoth's a very solid Quiver Dance Sweeper. Access to Tinted Lens makes it a fantastic Z user, as you can just run a Buginium Z and blow away even resists thanks to the ability. Super strong. We've seen it 6-0 teams by itself in the past off-season alone. But yeah,
yeah.
Big threat for sure. This team has got so many threatening options to use, so it's going to be definitely really hard to prepare for everything, as if he gets rid of one wall with one of your Pokemon, then something else is going to just come in and clean up the rest of the team. Very solid.
Alright, so we're waiting for the next pick to come in here. So, start with this. Just TCP went offline and Brad's gotta go grab his picks.
Okay.
Oof.
I'll be back and go in shortly. I don't know why it's only the Masters team that doesn't function correctly.
Yeah, that's definitely weird. Maybe because he's a new coach or something.
Sure. Hashtag blame the master.
I'll jump on that. So yeah, I guess since we got this late, why don't you guys hop in the comments and tell us how you're enjoying the stream so far? What do you think of the picks? Interact with us.
Yes.
And if you haven't already, you should go ahead and join the ASL Discord server. I believe that will be in the description. If not, I think I can do this. No. I don't think I can. Never mind. I was hoping to just link it in the chat below, but I don't have one powered,
I'll go ahead and link it for you.
Yeah, so those who aren't there, just go ahead and join up. It's definitely a great server, lots of activity. Great community all around.
Alright, we have the next pick, it'll come up in a minute.
Yeah. So, for the Hartford Whalers, they're finally going to be going.
Nope, not the no, I thought you said Washington Whalers. Never mind, go on. I didn't say anything.
The
Professionals.
Hartford Whalers. They're going to be finally picking their second tier A with Infernape, which is a pretty good steal. Obviously, this late in the draft. Infernape is another hard-hitting mod, both physically and specially, and it is very versatile. It is it pivots, it can set up, it can kind of do whatever. Also having base 108 speed is very nice to support it, and it just has an incredible move pool and does set up rocks if you want to do that. Although he does have some good setters already.
Okay, next up, Cameron is Mega Absol, another Dark type. Very strong with base 165 attack, and also access to Sword Stance, although you're rarely going to get much of an opportunity to do that. Sucker Punch gives it some nice priority options, as well as Knockoff and Suit to support the team further. It also gets some really good coverage with Play Rough, Superpower, Mega Horn, but also with a respectable special attack, it can run Flamethrower to low in those steel types that are hoping to potentially wall it, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt even. It's just like got some really solid coverage options. Quite a high strength, although its frailty is gonna really hurt him. Doesn't really complement the Magic Bounce user very well when not switching in very easily on anything.
I'll be right back.
Mom, Dad.
Well, okay, sorry about that. So, we have a huge snipe. Yep, you can hear my brother. He's pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep, he's really cool. So we
Professionalism.
have Yep, we have Embor for the Utah who sniping the crap out of me. And he's my pick, so rip. But Palos,
Oh my dear.
well, rip. There's my pick revealed. But anyways, Embor does suit the Utah Hoots very well. Is a nice physical hitting mon. Let me type in my pick really quick. It is very hard, and another firefighting type taken. I noticed with a good ability in Reckless and Blaze, making its Flare Blitzes incredibly hard. And Flare Blitz and Wild Charge are usually just the go-to moves, and it's gonna hit very hard with Reckless, as I mentioned.
Yeah. So next up for TJ is Garbodor, and now he has some key spike support to go with whatever else he seems to be holding on to in Tier A. This is definitely very solid defensive Pokemon, even though it doesn't have the best stats overall. It's just got a lot of support. It can run Memento after T-Spikes to help get in the Pokemon that he wants to, and it's also fairly strong with stuff like Gunk Shot and Drain Punch to threaten out some stuff. Explosion to prevent some defaults at Rapid Spins, which is not the best option, but it's there.
Yep, and my pick is going to be Palo Sand, a nice ground and grounded ghost type. It's interesting, really. I haven't really used it much, but I was intrigued with its ability, Water Compaction. It does have a good defensive stat in base 110, and it can hit hard on the special side mainly. But it's going to be an interesting defensive mon that I use this season. Obviously getting recovery with Shore Up and hitting hard with Shadow Ball. Obviously. Jeez, I don't know what I'm talking about. And it is another Rock Setter.
Alright, next pick up is Druddigon. Druddigon is quite a good dragon type for Tier C. He's got quite good defenses with access to Rough Skin. He's got access to both Stealth Rock and Glare, so it can offer some good support, but it also has Sheer Force, which means that its elemental punches are hitting hard. So it's definitely got some sleeper strong offensive stats that rarely run, but definitely still a solid option to consider. It is unfortunately a bit slow, but it's definitely fine to deal with, especially when you've got access to Sticky Webs from Araquanid, so solid pick overall.
Yeah, and we're going to have for the Phoenix Flygons, Porygon Z. Obviously not getting the its overpowered Z move, Z conversion, but it hits very hard with a base 135 special attack stat, getting both download and adaptability. Two very good abilities for Porygon Z. It just really hits really hard with the Tri-Attack or whatever you want to run on it. Like it does have agility for setup or Scarfed, or and it does have great great coverage with Ice Beam and Discharge, Shadow Ball, Signal Beam, those kinds of things. And it does set up with Nasty Ball.
Yeah, and coming in next is Delphox. Delphox is definitely quite a nice Pokemon with a good base speed. Fire Psychic typing is quite good offensively. It's got, because Fire typing covers Steel types that Psychic has difficulty with, so definitely can hit quite hard. It's got Specs, which is powerful, and then can just trick off the item to deal with any defensive walls that want to come in. Calm Mind's also a very solid option with leftovers. It's got decent enough bulk to really rock that if it wants to, and just really hits quite hard for Tier B option. It's definitely a good Pokemon.
Yeah, and the Tier C first pick for the St. Louis Samurats is going to be Excelgor, which I think is on the screen. No, it isn't.
Wait a minute, though. Best Tier C mon, IMO.
I 100% agree. I love Excelgor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So good.
Very fast at base 145.
Oh,
base 145 speed, and to make it even faster, you can give it Unburden. But Excelgor is a great lead, and it also is a good hazard setter with spikes and T-spikes. It gets U-turn as a pivot, knockoff, pursuit, interestingly. We've seen Final Gambit used. You know, just kind of very interesting mon. It has a lot of different things you can run.
Yep. Next up is Hitmonchan for Keister. Hitmonchan's quite a solid spinner for Tier C. It's not quite as good as Hitmontop, but it has some good defensive stats and does most everything else that Hitmontop would want to do, bar the Intimidate. Has access to some good offensive stats. We saw him use that quite effectively last season to bulk up 6-0 team with sub bulk up, so it definitely has that threatening potential. You can't just completely ignore the Pokemon in prep. That's always what you want from a Tier C Pokemon.
Yep, and for the let me pick really quick. For the PC Barcelona, we're going to have Mega Heracross as its final Tier B pick. Mega Heracross has not been used that much, obviously just because its speed stat is a little low, but it hits incredibly hard. Not a little low, pretty low, but it hits incredibly hard at base 185 attack, and the skill link ability is going to help it out a lot, as it gets Bullet Seed and Rock Blast, 2 moves that benefit from that. But besides that, Mega Heracross just hits very hard with close combat. It does get set up with Sword Dance as well. It has a pretty good move pool. It is a Pursuit Trapper.
Why don't you talk about your pick here too?
Yep, and as I talk about yeah, that's my pick. I don't know what I was saying. Honchkrow definitely was not on my draft plan originally. I'm kind of buckling under pressure, but
Welcome to my world.
I got what I got thanks to Susie. And speaking of Susie, this is like one of Susie's faves, but Honchkrow I'm excited to use. It has a very good attack stat now that I'm seeing. It actually has a decent special attack stat, but Honchkrow with the Moxie ability is very threatening. It does get Brave Bird with the stab that makes it hit hard, and is a good Pursuit Trapper.
Yeah, so next up for TJ is Skullgeist. Skullgeist is a really solid Grass and Ghost type Pokemon for a Tier C pick. It's surprisingly bulky overall for what you'd want. You're definitely going to be getting a lot of value out of this as a wall. Leech Seed Stall is always a good option. It's definitely solid. You get all of the different forms for this, so you can run the more defensive options, or you can run a fast offensive set if you wanted to. It unfortunately is obviously not getting Z Trick or Treat, so it's not as good offensively as you'd hope, but it can be run that way, so you can't just ignore it and prep.
Yep, and the Utah Hoots are going to pick up Rhyperior, being a pretty good Tier C mon in my opinion, although its quad weakness does hold it back a little bit. But it does have good ability in Solid Rock and Reckless with the Head Smash. Oh wait, no, it doesn't even get that. I'm stupid. And Lightning Rod, which is kind of interesting, but I guess that's not how it works. But it is a good rock setter and just a great defensive mon and offensive mon with base 130 defense and 140 attack.
And next up for Cam is Oricorio. Oricorio is really solid in this because you actually do get all of the forms in it, so you can run Ghost, Fire, Electric, or Psychic, I believe it is. So yeah, definitely a solid Pokemon with a lot of versatility. Hits quite hard with Revelation Dance, Hurricane, but it doesn't have the best coverage outside of that. So you're going to generally see sets like Carmine Roost on it. But you know, it can run like Specs or Scarf or something and still do a lot of work. Its stats aren't exactly the highest, but they're all very usable, so it's good to use there.
Yep, and TCP is going to pick up Little Greninja, Frogadier, which Yeah, it's on screen now.
The sprite isn't gonna pop up because I actually don't have a sprite for it. So unfortunate.
Is Frogadier allowed to have Protean?
No.
Yes.
Actually, yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so yeah, that does make it a threat, obviously, and it does do similar things. As the Greninja, although it does not get spikes, it just gets toxic spikes. Frogadier getting a 97 base speed stat as a NFE is very good. And it does have an insane move pool, and it is able to, you know, just do the same things that Greninja would do.
Yeah, so next up is regular Steelix. Sorry, Steelix has got some massive defensive stats, so it's definitely quite a nice wall. It doesn't get reliable recovery, unfortunately, so its longevity isn't the best, but with just like such high stats, it's going to be switching into a lot of things quite well. It gets access to rocks and raw, so it can really force some switches out and get some nice chip with the rocks, so definitely a good defensive Pokemon here for budget.
Yep. And for the Arcane Arcanines, we're going to have Ranbull, a good physical Mon. With the Intimidate ability, it allows it to be a good defensive check to some things with a pretty good HP stat. But it hits hard with its base 120 attack with a pretty good move pool. And yeah, it's going to help out his team a lot. An interesting pick though, as he does have a Clefable already, so.
4th time Ian has sniped me.
What a good friend.
Keep him coming. Keep him coming.
Yeah,
why not?
One more time. Alright, so next up for me is Electabuzz. Electabuzz is a really nice budget electric type, base 105 speed is very solid to have for electric type. Fast Volt Switch is good, but it can run mixed quite well because it has the elemental punches. It's got like cross chop, but special is equally viable on it. You can just run the standard Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, HP Ice type stuff on it. So yeah, it's not really anything special, just electric type for the sake of an electric type, which is always good. And next up, we've got Big Brother.
Yeah.
Next
up, Hutch is going to take Electivire. Basically, I don't have a lot to say because we just talked about Electabuzz. But Electivire is going to be a lot better on the physical side with a lot more attack, but it is a little bit slower. It does have a nice ability in Motor Drive and a just great move pool, and I think it suits his team pretty well as his electric type.
And next up for AZ is another electric type in Rotom. Rotom's a really solid Pokemon. It doesn't quite have the same high base stats of the other Rotom forms, unfortunately, but it is a little bit faster. Goes to electric typing with Levitate's really solid. It means that it's a good spin blocker, good pivot. It's got good enough offensive and defensive stats to really run either set if it wants to. Typically you're just going to see like a Scarf or Specs with like Trick or something on it, or you're going to see the defensive stat with Will-O-Wisp and Defog, which is a really nice tech that it gets now. So it's got a lot of versatility that it adds to the team. Yep,
and now as the draft screen, okay, here we go. We have Tangela for the London Lapras. Completing his tier C, so he'll have to pick the tier A as well.
Yeah, that's gonna be hard. Let's see how his draft forms with all that.
And Tangela is a great lower evolution Mon. With the Eviolite, it is very defensive, and with the Regenerator ability, similar to its older sibling Tangrowth, is going to be very thick with an already base 115 defense stat and already base 100 special attack stat. It is going to actually be hitting sort of hard, but it is a little bit less versatile just due to its lesser move pool and attack stats.
Yeah. So next up is Reuniclus. I'm sure Brad is very happy with this pick. Reuniclus is extremely solid as a psychic type. It's just so ridiculously bulky that it just can come in on a lot of attacks. It makes for a really solid fighting type check. and it's just like super good with Calm Mind, because it also gets Magic Guard, so you can't really chip it down a status or anything. You can't toxic it to put it on a timer. It's just going to be sitting there Calm Minding and putting in work. It's definitely one of my favorite mons to use, especially with a Tapu, which I think there is one left, but don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if that's what he's looking for, but you know, got a lot of versatility there with pretty solid move pool as well to boot. So yeah, just a strong pick.
Yep, and for AZ and the Houston Buzz, we are going to have, if it's on the screen, I don't think it is yet.
First snipe of the stream for me. Disappointing.
And now we have Sock, an interesting but nice pick here by the Houston Hoopas, with some pretty good abilities in Sturdy and Mold Breaker. Sock is hitting very hard at the base 125 attack. You know, bulk up Sock is very, very scary, and it has a pretty good move pool. Is able to knock off things, and does behind his sub it'll put in a lot of work as well. But besides that, I'm not your guy to talk about when it comes to Sock.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the Pokemon. I wanted it, but now Hutch has picked up Lycanroc Day. This gives him another Sand Abuser for his probably inevitable Gigalith. Let's be honest with ourselves, is coming.
What? I would never.
let's just be honest with ourselves. So yeah, Lycanroc Day's got a good priority option in the Cell Rock, Swords Dance. As we said before, Sand Rush, it makes for a good Z user with its own unique Z move. It's got a lot more coverage now. It's got access to Stomping Tantrum, so it's not just a complete sitting duck to the Steel type, so that's definitely solid. Next up, I'll talk about my own pick. It's Gerda. I was planning on getting Sork, as we saw before, just for its speed, but instead we got Gerda. Gerda's a super bulky, super good Pokemon. It's can set up some bulk ups really effectively and just sweep through teams. It's an absolute monster in PU, which is always good. It really just gives almost everything that you want out of a fighting type, with like, except for maybe like close combat it doesn't get, but it's a great setup Pokemon.
Yep, and now we're going to have Minior completing the Tier B for the Arcane Arcanines. Minior is a nice pick. It is pretty good for Tier B. Just obviously being able to Shell Smash is very good. And it does have a good ability in the Shields Down, which is kind of, you know, interesting to use. And it does have a good move pool as well. So, yeah, Minior is going to be very threatening offensive for Altaria Motors.
And next up is Type Null, another solid defensive Pokemon with Eviolite backing up its stats a bit. Doesn't get reliable recovery once again, but it does have the Umbreon to give Wish support for it, which is solid. It also doesn't get Parting Shot, unfortunately, or Defog, but it's just got that nice defense to switch in on a lot of attacks. It also can be run offensively. It still has the base 95 attack. It's just not going to be anywhere near as fast, unfortunately. But you know, still got access to Swords Dance and stuff, so it's still a very solid option.
Yep. And for the Hartford Whalmers, shortly we should be getting the pick, which is going to be oh wow, this pick.
That's amazing.
I love it. I love it.
We're gonna have Regirock, the final Reggie taken in the draft, and
Regigigas still is available.
Well, the final,
he wants to make a free agent.
Final trio, okay. He should drop something for it. But Regirock is, I don't even like how, it's just a thick defensive mon. Like, he has all the Reggies. Regice is good special defensive, or either. They're all good either. They're just good defensive mons that hit hard and have Stealth Rock.
They lose to a Mankey though.
Yeah, true. But he does, hopefully, he does have things like Decidueye and Primarina for that, I guess.
Yeah. So next up is Smeargle. This gives him a lot of different options here, because it does get every single move in the game, but unfortunately with bad space stats, it's mostly just going to be setting up hazards. So it's a good sticky web setter. It can spore things to put them to sleep. It can set up like some toxic spikes or spikes if it wants to. Typically just sticky web stealth rocks, but since baton pass is a lot loud, you can also run like belly drum baton pass, agility baton pass, not quiver or shell smash or anything like that because that's banned, but you know, definitely some options there. And you know, if he's really feeling himself, he could run belly drum extreme speed, but that's not exactly the best option for him.
Yep, and as we wait for our pick, Susie just responded O when he was timered. And his pick should be in shortly. Okay, we're going to have the very hard-hitting Tauros with a good with the good speed stat and attack stat. Tauros hits pretty hard if you slap a choice item on it. I guess choice band. And it does have a good ability in sheer, maybe intimidate. But if you get Tauros in there with double edge, it hits very hard, and it does have a very good move pool to support it. But it's kind of just goes in there and hits things. I wonder how often Susie will use him.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Pokemon though. And next up is Ninetales for TJ. This gives him some Sun, so I'll be interested to see what he wants to do with that, but it's also quite a good Pokemon in its own right. Base 100 speed is good, and I don't remember the special attack off the top of my head, but it's very usable, and with Sun boosting its fire attacks, it's going to be doing a lot of damage to things. So yeah, I'd be interested to see what he wants to do with it. I don't remember. Yeah, Sun doesn't look particularly helpful to anything yet. So yeah, we'll definitely need to see what he gets in the rest.
Yep, and my pick should be up soon. It is going to be Hariyama, the fighting type that I couldn't have earlier because N4 was taken from me, and now Ninetales was taken from me, and I am sad. But I have seen Hariyama used pretty well in the draft leagues, and I thought I'd give it a try. You can really just slap a AV on it and just give it 4 attacks and it'll be good to go. It does have a very high HP stat and good abilities in Thick Fat Guts and Sheer Force, so kind of whatever you want to go. You can obviously run the Flame War Gut set. It does get good priority with Bullet Punch and Fake Out if you want, and it does have just a good move pool in general, and I'm excited to use it.
Yeah. So next up is Valplume. Valplume's a pretty good Pokemon with Sun. Not that he has Sun, but it's definitely got some options. I'm not particularly well versed in this Pokemon, but it's got some good defensive and offensive stats for its tier. Grass Poison's a really solid type. It may not resist ground, but it makes it like a really good electric check and fairy check, which is good for the team. Yeah, I think it gets stuff like Sleep Powder, Stun Spore, Leech Seed, so some good support options there. But yeah, I'll be interested to see how he uses it. No T-Spikes, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
Yep, and the Phoenix Flygon's pick is going to be Armaldo. Good Rock Bud type with Rapid Spin, which is obviously very nice to have. Armaldo also hits pretty hard with a base 125 attack and can get its speed doubled in rain. It also is a hazard setter with Stealth Rocks, and it gets Swords Dance for the sweeps. And it does get Liquidation. I did not know that until now.
It's probably
Interesting pick, yeah. It's mostly just going to be used for its spin and rock setter. It's got some good roll compression there, but as a Pokemon, it's typically not the best option to bring outside of its specific support. Anyway, next up is Cincino. Cincino's a really fun normal type to use. It gets access to Skill Link, so Skill Link's Tail Slap's doing a lot of damage there. It's got Bullet Seed and Rock Blast to further take advantage of it. Then it's got U-Turn to pivot. It's got a nice base 115 speed, so you can run a band on it, or if you wanted to, you can run King's Rock for about 50% flinch chance. So yeah, definitely a solid offensive normal type Pokemon that you got to watch out for.
Yep. And making his wheel pick, we have coming in soon. And soon. It's very interesting one. I really like it, but I guess I should wait till it's on the screen. Maybe.
Yeah.
Should be up there.
It is not up there for me.
Yeah. We'll get there.
Why don't you just start talking about it anyway? Just
Alright.
while we wait.
Yeah.
People know what it is.
Well,
You can try refreshing
the
the stream if anything.
pick is going to be Xatu. Xatu is a good PU mon. It does pretty well in the ladder. With the Magic Bounce ability, it is a threat. It really just kind of takes the like just limits the other team from wanting to set up any hazards or status conditions. But besides that, it has somewhat mediocre stats. It does get defog, baton pass, has pivot, or U-turn. Oh, there it is. And it does get wish. It is a wish support, and actually gets sucker punch. Did not know that. It also can sometimes set up screens and can hit decently hard if you set up a Calm Mind.
Yeah, especially with access to stored power. It's definitely got a lot of options there. Brad's looking very set for hazard control here with Coco, Mandibuzz, and Polion, Hitmonlee, and now Xatu. Definitely some crazy stuff there. So next pick should be coming in soon.
You guys can try reloading the stream. That might help.
I did try that before, but it has not worked. Yeah, I'm just gonna start talking about it anyway. If you want to reset or something. We've got Vanillux. Vanillux is a very powerful ice type option with getting snow warning. It means that its blizzards are 100% accurate. It's got a respectable speed stat to run Scarf or Totemize with. It's got really nice special attack stat to just hit things really hard with Blizzard and whatnot. And yeah, it's still not updating by the way, but yeah, it's got access to Flash Cannon, but pretty limited coverage overall. But it's not really about the coverage, it's about hitting things hard with very good offensive typing in Ice. And for the most part, it can just cover what it's not hitting with hidden power if it wants to do that. Access to priority with Ice Shard is very solid to just chip away some stuff because its attack stat is quite respectable. So yeah, it's got some good options. It's a bit of a niche bring, but we've seen it put in a lot of work in the past. So it'll be interesting to see how it does in the hands of peak stuff.
1 second, I'm making my pick. Okay, so we have Rampardos, PC Barcelona, and Shadow, and Rampardos is a just incredibly hard-hitting Pumon. It does have an unfortunate stat, speed stat in 58, but its attack stat is like almost triple that. At 165. It does have Mold Breaker and Sheer Force too. Pretty good abilities. But if you put a choice band on this thing, like the switch-ins are like 0. As long as it's able to outspeed things. It also is a rock setter and does get rock polish force set up if it's able to outspeed everything, which I'm still not sure about. And my next pick, which I'm going to talk about too.
Hutch has got a guaranteed
Oh my
loss now.
god. I have to
Okay,
play for Alligator
this-
and a
Guaranteed.
Linoon. I'm
This one,
forfeiting.
this one
You've
is
heard it here.
Grant's fault. Okay, this one is Grant's fault.
Guaranteed
This one
loss.
is Grant / AZ's
Mhm.
fault for taking Licky. But I was forced into picking Linoon because I didn't know what else to pick, and I like Linoon. And basically, if you haven't heard, Linoon has this move called Belly Drum, and that's kind of all it does. It just sets up Belly Drum, kills with Gluttony, or varying Gluttony, and attempts to sweep teams. But
Yeah, with
that's-
Stomping Tantrum, it's way better now too, so should be fun. Very fun
Yeah.
Pokemon. Next up is Kuma-O. Kuma-O got a big buff now. It's got access to Dragon Dance as well as some actually decent fighting stuff now. So Kuma-O is quite a good pick to see. It's gonna take advantage of Webs quite well because it's lower base speed now. With support of Dragon Dance and Webs, it's gonna be outspeeding stuff. It's got good mixed stats with Clanging Scales being a really solid dragon type coverage option, as well as Flamethrower, Flash Cannon, etc. And it can run Autotomize if it wants to run special that just boosts speed only. So yeah, it's got some versatility there.
Yep. And for the Utah Hoots, we're going to have if we wait a second, we have Raichu. Raichu is a solid tier C mon, obviously being a good pivot in the Volt Switch as most low tier electric types are. Lightning Rod is a great ability, and if you set up a nasty plot, it can be pretty dangerous. It also does get things like Fake Out or Extreme Speed, which I have seen used before. And it does have an actual... Its attack side and special attack side are the same. So you can kind of run it however you want, but move pools are kind of where it can separate.
So next up is Leavanny's nice web setter right here. Leavanny is quite a solid option there. It's I'm not sure why he wants it with Smeagol, but it is what it is. Leavanny's got some nice offensive stats, surprisingly. It can run like Sword Stance, Agility, it can run Special if it wants to, so it's definitely something that you should not sleep on at all. Definitely keep it in mind, but it's just definitely best at web, so I'm not sure why he wanted it with Smeagol.
Yep. And now we're going to have a very, very, very nice pick to round out TCP's draft, and that is going to be Thunderous T. There is one more round left, but obviously he does have the franchise. Yeah. Thunderous T is incredible. It has a 145 base special attack and a good attack stat as well, and it has a very good move pool. So I'm excited to see how he uses it. It's really versatile. It does have defog too this season. You know, you can set up an agility, you can set up a nasty plot, you can swap a choice item on it, and obviously the void. I can't word. I don't. Volt Absorb. The Volt Absorb ability is very nice as well.
And next up is Articuno. Articuno is definitely super held back by being 4 times quick to rock, but it's still a very solid defensive Pokemon. Pressure Stall is always a fantastic strategy with like sub-boost protect, so it's going to be able to keep itself healthy. Ice typing is also a really strong offensive typing, especially with access to freeze dry, so it's not troubled by the waters. It is hard walled by steel types, unfortunately, but he does have some options to deal with that. It is looking rather steel weak, but at the same time, that just means that steel types are going to be really pressured to perform versus this team, so it should be interesting to see what he does to deal with that.
Yep. And now we're going to have the Arcane Arcanines take... Wait for it to pop up on screen. Masquerain. Masquerain, as he said when he picked it, is the budget Ribombi. Obviously, it does get sticky webs, which is one of the main reasons it is picked. It also gets Defog and Roost, I think. Yep. So it does have some pretty good support moves. It also is a decent quiver dance sweeper with an impressive move pool with things like the energy ball and hydro pump, and ice beam. And that also can be a pivot with U-turn if you want, but you know.
Yeah, like most websites, it's just going to be a suicide lead. But anyway, next up is Dusknoir, my ghost typing. Dusknoir's a really solid spin blocker, which I definitely appreciate with Spike and T-Spike stack. So yeah, gives me normal resist, gives me some good offensive stats as well as some good bulk, so it's just gonna kind of be there to soak up hits when I need this too. It's not something that I'll probably want to bring too often, but it's always important to have a ghost type, I feel, and Dusknoir is probably the best option that was available in Tier C.
Yep, and now we're going to have the pick for the Whirling Timbers, if that'll pop up on the screen. We have Mercman himself, Braviary. Braviary I haven't seen drafted too much in the ASL, but I'm excited to see how to use it because I really like it. It has a pretty good attack stat, and if you put a scarf on it, it's dangerous. It is good scarf because it does have U-turn for the pivot. If you slap Brave Bird on there, it's going to be hitting hard. Defiant is also a pretty neat ability, plus Sheer Force, so whichever you think is the best. And Bulk Up Bruce is also a set that you can see ran.
Yep, and next up for AZ is Skuntank. Skuntank's a really solid budget defogger. Poison typing means that it's going to be able to absorb those T-spikes for the team, which otherwise are a bit troublesome for stuff like Tapu Bulu. Get Sucker Punch and Pursuit, so that's some solid options there to deal with. Access to Fire Blast to pressure some steals that want to come in. Its big thing is defog though. It's going to be able to defog hazards without being weak to rocks or spikes, or toxic spikes, sorry. So yeah, it's going to be like a pretty common bring for a Tier C Pokemon, which is somewhat problematic and doesn't get T-spikes, but still quite solid.
Yep. And for Cody in the London Lapras, the last pick before the last round, we're going to have the other Thundurus taken. So both Thunduruses taken in the last couple rounds. But Thundurus I, another great Tier A Mon that is just taken late with good attack stats, both specially and physically, and a great special attack stat, great speed stat, and good ability in Prankster and maybe Defiant if you want to. But if you have a nasty plot up, Dual Dance with Agility Nasty Plot that can be run, and with a great move pool. It has Volt Switch and U-turn, and honestly, this is one of Thundurus T and Thundurus I are both great Z move users. So, and it does get defog.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to sleep on its physical set either. With Defiant, it's going to come in on the defogs, which is very good with Slurpuck, which is probably why he wanted to use it, because now all of a sudden people are definitely going to be a lot more fearful of defogging things away. It's got solid attack stats along with bulk up, so it's definitely got those as an option. Unfortunately, it is forced into running Wild Charge for physical electric stab, doesn't get Thunder Punch. It's still solid. Anyway, next up is Buzzwole. Buzzwole's another solid Pokemon to abuse with webs. It's not super fast, but it's fast enough to really make use of webs, or a Scarf if it wanted to run it. Bulk up really ups its stats. It's very weak on the Spadef side, but otherwise it's a very good defensive Pokemon on the physical side. So it's got a lot of coverage as well, so it can also be a good Z user, but I imagine it's going to want to use the Thundurus I. So yeah, just sub Drain Punch is going to be a good set too.
Yep. And for the Houston Hoopas and AZ, we'll be taking, or he'll be taking, I'm not a part of his team. He'll be taking Crussell, a good lower tier, I guess it's mainly just used
Hazard
for
stacker.
rocks. Yep, good hazard stacker with the sturdy ability, so it's going to be able to get up at least one layer, and it does get shell smash, which can be threatening in very few and certain circumstances. But Crustle can definitely put in the work for AZ's team.
Yeah. And next up, to literally no one's surprise, we have Gigalith. Gigalith is Sand. It's also really good defensively. Actually, it's because Sand does boost its defensive stats, it boosts its death specifically. You can come in and take a lot of hits on both sides just thanks to its natural defensive bulk. It gives them a good rock setter. You're going to probably be running smooth rock to really maximize Sand turns. Good fire check. And yeah, just some dual weather stuff is quite fun. I'm a bit disappointed to not see a Sun Abuser, but that's just me. Still,
You can thank my buddy Ian for that one.
Yeah, look at that Valve Plume, but yeah, it's looking quite solid.
The Heliolisk.
Definitely,
but, yeah.
You're definitely gonna Heliolisk. Yeah, never mind. It's gonna be quite solid to see that. Anyway, let's talk about my pick. Blastoise needed a water type. Hazard removal is always nice, so I went with Blastoise again. I did draft this Pokemon last season, and while I didn't bring it that often, it's a good Pokemon to have. It's a solid Fire-type switch-in for the most part. It can spin pretty confidently, and it's got a good enough special attack that it can be a threat there. It's got access to Mirror Coat as well to really punish any special hits that want to try to break it. It's got Haze if it wants to run that. And if I really want to, I can run Z Haze for a full heal thing if I choose to make it Z. So yeah, it's got a fair few options for it. It's mainly just going to be Spinner and obligatory water type. I do plan on making a free agent at the end of this draft because I'm being honest, I did not remember I had Mega Kang when I picked up Zangoose. But anyway.
Yep, and for the Arcane Arcanines, their pick should be here. We're gonna have Passimian, an interesting pick, but I like it for the Arcane Arcanines. Passimian, hard hitting, low tier one. It does have Defiant, but I don't believe it's released. Is that?
I don't think it is.
Yeah, so that does hinder it a little bit. But it is a good pivot, so like Scarfed Passimian with U-turn is going to be hitting pretty hard with a very good move pool. And like things like knockoff, so yeah.
Yeah, and next up is Floette. I have zero clue what this Pokemon does. I have never seen it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and look it up real quick. So yeah, so it's the pre-evolution of Florges. In fact, that makes sense. I was thinking Floette Eternal before, but that's banned. So yeah,
that is way
basically
banned.
does this. Yeah, it's super banned. Basically does the same things that you're gonna want out of a Florges, but worse. Eviolite's helpful, but you know, otherwise you're just gonna be Wish Protects, Aromatherapy and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
yeah, so for the Hartford Whalmers, they are just gonna have Regice because it is their franchise pick, so they are done drafting, and Regice is their pick. At this point, I've talked about the Reggies like every time he's picked the Reggie, and we've already talked about Regice. But if you didn't know, Regice is a very thick mon with base 200 special defense, and is good in terms of hazard setting with the Stealth Rocks, and was used incredibly oh, it doesn't even get Stealth Rocks. I'm stupid. Forget that.
Don't worry about it. Next up is mascot pick once again, Wailord. Fun Pokemon, not very good, but fun. Its best set is of course the Heavy Slam Curse Rest Talk, as we all know. It wins every game that it's ever been brought to, as we know from Felicify. But yeah, other than that, it could run like a Specs Water Spout somehow. If it's managing to do that, it could run Scarf Water Spout, I guess. Just defensive sets if it wants to. It's just,
I mean,
it's not a very good Pokemon.
He
It's
has
mostly
webs. Webs with water
He
spout.
does. He does have webs, but Wailord's so slow anyway. He
Yeah, it's
might
like
still
base
need
45
the
speed.
Scarf. So yeah, but you know, just for
It's
the
been
name.
60 speed.
Oh, it is? That's
Yeah.
actually kind of usable.
Usable, but not good enough with just webs, I don't think.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
most
one
things.
speed under Tapu Koko. Under webs.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind. It's not good though. Still not good.
Yeah,
Speaking of good.
but yeah, we'll see. And now we're gonna have Volbeat for the Utah Hoots. Volbeat is a PUmon that gets Prankster, and that's about all I know off the top of my head.
It gets Tailwind,
Tail Glow, Baton
Tail
Passes.
Glow,
is a big
Baton
thing.
Pass,
It does also get Defog
Encore.
within the new
Defog.
generation.
Thunderwave.
It's a
But, yeah.
fantastic mon.
Yeah, it's super good support. I'm not sure exactly what he's trying to really Tail Glow Baton Pass into. I guess the Vino and the Prosmo are options, but his special side is somewhat lacking comparatively. But it is what it is. Anyway, TJ's final pick is Mega T-Tar. This is a really underrated Pokemon in draft format, at least in the ASL. It's actually the first time that it's been drafted. So Mega T-Tar is just like, it's super solid. It's got its main set's gonna be stuff like Dragon Dance, which is super hard to deal with thanks to its extra 10 speed. It's now actually gonna be outspeeding a lot after a Dragon Dance. It can even afford to run Adamant with that if it wants to. It's also got really strong special offensive stats along with really good coverage and like Ice Beam, Fire Blast, so it can lure in some common checks like Landorus T and just blow them away with an Ice Beam. It's also a really solid rock setter because it's just got such high natural bulk, it just can do a lot for the team. So yeah, solid overall.
Yep. And for myself, we're gonna have Talonflame shouting back all the way to ASL Season 1. Great year it was. I drafted Talonflame because I originally wanted Ninetales, but that was snipped from me. Well, actually, I originally wanted Emboar, and then Ninetales. But, you know, it's obviously been nerfed since I used it last with the Gale Wings ability. But it's still going to be interesting to use. My hazard's great. I really just have Mega Diancie and Rotom Mow. But we'll see.
And next up for Shadow is Stoutland. Now he's got a nice formidable Sand Court. Stoutland's definitely a sleeper Pokemon. Sand Rush makes it very fast, and with the Choice Band return, it's going to be hitting really hard. So yeah, it's definitely going to be something that you need to watch out for now. It's you're going to want to try to bring some sand counters, but at least it's not Exegil like Rock Day. It's not going to be quite as centralizing to the draft. So he's got some other options outside of it, but definitely something you need to be careful of still.
Yeah, and we're going to have Spiritomb finalizing the Phoenix Flygon draft and Keister. Spiritomb is a great, it's a pretty good PMon in terms of just support. It does get the Will-O-Wisp and is a pretty good physical defensive check. It obviously does get the things like Pain Split, Trick, Taunt, a lot of things that those supportive dark types would have, and Destiny Bond, and it does get priority with Shadow Sneak and Sucker Punch.
And next up for Brad is Mega Banette. He recently wrote an article about this Pokemon, and it's definitely a solid Pokemon, super sleeper. Base 165 attack is massive for sure, and it does get access to priority in Shadow Sneak and Sucker Punch, so its slow speed isn't going to be a real detractor. Its big thing though is Prankster, of course. It's going to be able to Prankster Willow some threats, Prankster Destiny Bond to get some sneaky KOs. And one of my personal favorite sets is Carmine's Cotton Guard to just be that juicy wall. Just, you know, get some good setup, priority setup, so it's going to be able to take those hits pretty well and then just hit hard, even though its special attack set isn't the best. Still definitely a formidable option.
Alright, so that is going to go ahead and wrap up the draft. Let me just go ahead and do this.
Was that the fastest draft we've done? Felt like it.
Yes, I think probably. But thank you guys all for coming out to the draft, and we will be having a draft, a post-draft rankings coming to you guys somewhere around like Wednesday or something. So yeah, be looking out for that. Hit the subscribe button if you guys are new, if this is your first time checking out the channel. And yeah, thank you guys all for coming out, and wish us luck on ASL Season 5, as there will be lots of content coming your way. So definitely worth hitting that subscribe button. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.